Hi, welcome to Covenant. My name's Simon. We're going to start a video series now looking at how you develop your products. One, how to develop those products. Two, how to get them ready for sale. And three, how to engage with your customers to get them to buy them. So this first video is going to look at getting to know your product. Why would I say get to know your product? Well, let's just take some examples. I asked some people in my business network to describe for me a very well-known high street burger chain. You don't need much imagination to know which one of the two or three we could mention. Now, I said to them, you tell me what products they sell. And the first couple of guys said, burgers, chicken, milkshakes, that kind of thing. I said, great, that's a great answer, that's correct. Then someone else in there said, well, actually what they're selling is a concept. They're selling a concept of convenience. That's what they're selling, right? And then another group of two or three people said, well, actually, all they're selling is brand. They're not really selling a burger. I mean, the burger is just, it's a byproduct. What they're selling is the logo and everything else. So in some cases, you could say all those people were right. But then think about this example. I asked a couple of company directors to describe to me their products. So the first the first director said, these are our products, A, B, C, D, E, F, etc. Literal products as they were. The second director came from that concept perspective again and said, well, actually, we're a lifestyle company. What we're selling is a change in thinking to the way you want to live your life, etc., etc., etc. Again, both of these people were right. I then said to those directors, now tell me the actual physical or named products that you have and you know, give me those names. They came up with different products. Even one of them was a different name. So that's wrong. You can't have that in a company if your two directors or anybody within your company doesn't actually know what you sell. And just before we go on to giving you some help on this subject matter, I'll just give you one more example. I called a solicitor a couple of weeks ago about some services I needed. And after about 15 seconds, I was kind of wondering what acronyms he was using and what they meant. I was bamboozled. I didn't understand really much of what he said. He didn't ask me, beyond me asking him a basic question, what I really wanted. So in that situation, he was the domain expert. He understood what he did. He understood what being a solicitor was. In fact, he sold what he did, really well. But he didn't sell the products to me, and I left the conversation and bought them from elsewhere. So now that we've seen that actually quite a few people can describe products in different ways and some can't describe them at all, what kind of help can we give you in terms of developing those products? The first thing that will help you in designing your products is a typically obvious thing, which is creating value. What is it that you've created that's going to give value to a customer? You may have created a widget, you may have involved yourself in that product design, but forget that. What is it the customer wants? And I'll give you an example. A few years ago, I was working for a software company and they developed and still do great applications for the healthcare market. When we deployed the applications, they had various ways in which you could do various functions. I asked the development team why it is that you could do one thing 3 different ways. So you could request some work to be done on the application. You could request it in 3 ways. I said, did the customer say that it was because in different situations they wanted it like this or like that? And they said, no, we just found that the technology that we built made it possible for us to develop those 3 ways. And I said, well, which ones did the customer like best? And they said, well, we didn't really ask, we just gave them options. When it came to deploying those systems, those options confused because it confused our training package because we were having to train on 3 different ways of doing it. So the value the customer wanted hadn't really been explored at all. So make sure you create value in your products. Be brief, and in my way of describing this, I'm going to be brief. If you have to spend ages and ages and ages talking about your products, you've probably not got it quite where you need to. Customers don't hang around long. Look at how much customers spend browsing. They don't even wait to get home on their PCs or their laptops. They go online. Most of the purchases that are made by phone nowadays. So if you're going to describe your product, particularly online, you're going to need to be brief. And if you bump into someone at a conference or a business breakfast, or just someone that you know through a family meeting, someone says, oh, what do you do? Fine, tell them what you do. But when you come to the products, you have to be succinct. You need to be brief. Don't waffle. Really important to get the language right here. And we go back to that information that the solicitor gave me. The language was technically correct, but it wasn't a language that I, as a customer, really understood at all. So when you're describing your products to your customers, you don't need to condescend them, because they probably come into that sector that you're in to get something, so they'll have broad knowledge, but be clear in that information. Get it right. If you're going to use jargon, make sure it's industry standard. It's not your localized way of saying something. Make sure it's known throughout that sector, and don't assume anything. This is a really obvious one, but write it down. If you document your product, and if these directors had documented their products, those two directors I mentioned earlier on, then they probably could have read from that and understood it and learnt it. Write your products down. There's nothing worse than going to a sales floor and finding that there's information in the sales floor that talks about what the products do, and you go to the marketing and either they don't have any information or it's different because someone has assumed they understand what the product is. I listened to a chief exec one day who spoke about the products and didn't actually know what they were, and the two salespeople in the room said, he's not wrong, but that's not how we sell it anymore. That's not the message we give. We give a different message. The CEO was at least 2 years out of date in terms of what he was saying. Once you've written it down, learn it. Try and get it off pat. Try and get it into some sort of pitch that you can repeat to people. A bit like you're in that elevator pitch situation, which is effectively, you're in an elevator, you have a few floors to describe what you do to someone in that elevator. Make sure that you can speak to that consistently. Do it the same. I got it wrong for probably about a year, and until I started scripting what I did and got into the habit of looking at the messages that I was trying to add value in, that's when I got to that point. Be consistent across all of your platforms. Again, it's very difficult for a customer to understand what's being sold if what's being sent in an email doesn't compare to what's on the website. Be consistent on the sales floor, in the marketing, be consistent in the finance department, call the products the right things. What if the finance department invoice for the wrong product because actually you didn't describe it properly? Be consistent on your product information across the entire organization. Training. Can't emphasize this enough. If your organization doesn't understand its products, then at some point information is going to go wrong. Customers are going to go elsewhere because they'll hear one story from John and another one from Janet. They're really not going to understand what it is that you're selling, because someone may have got the information and said, well, we offer bespoke A, B, C, D, E, and someone else on the phone who picks it up in the lunch hour covering that person says, well, we do A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, and L. The customer's getting a different message. They're getting a different story. If you don't train the staff to know how to talk about the products, then you're going to find your customers trying harder and harder to buy. And customers typically don't try very hard to buy. They just go elsewhere. So, in summary, in terms of knowing your product, there are no hard and fast rules, but first of all, create value. Secondly, be brief about what you're talking about. Get the language right, write it down, learn what you need to know about each product, be consistent across your platforms, and train your staff. I hope that's been helpful. If you do like this video, please like it on our page, on our YouTube channel, and there will be more videos coming up. Another series, another video on actually how to develop the features and the benefits of your product. Thank you.